Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket without you even realizing it. Today's story is about a coin that looks simple, ordinary, and easily overlooked, but behind its modest copper glow lies one of the most extraordinary tales in numismatic history. We are talking about the legendary 1981 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin from the United States, a penny that in some rare cases has been estimated to be worth as much as $71.5 million because of its minting errors, mysterious variations, and production mistakes that make it one of the most sought-after coins ever discovered. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that most people would pass along without a second thought. Something worth only 1 cent on paper, yet in reality, it carries a value so high that it could buy mansions, sports cars, or entire collections of other rare coins. That's what makes the 1981 Lincoln penny so fascinating, the way such a small and simple object can hold unimaginable worth because of what went wrong during its creation. So, let's explore the magic, the mystery, and the many reasons why this coin stands apart from millions of others produced in the same year. The 1981 Lincoln cent belongs to one of the longest-running and most beloved coin series in American history, the Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse features the powerful and familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln, with the inscriptions "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of minting. The reverse side, during 1981, still displayed the iconic Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, with the inscriptions "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and 1 cent. At first glance, a 1981 penny doesn't seem particularly special. The mint struck hundreds of millions of them that year in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But among those countless coins, a few incredibly rare and error-filled examples slipped through the cracks, becoming the stuff of collector legends. These coins have unique minting mistakes, planchet variations, doubling, and other anomalies that make them not only historically significant but astronomically valuable. To understand why the 1981 Liberty Lincoln penny can be worth millions, it helps to know what was happening at the mint that year. 1981 was the final full year that U.S. 1-cent coins were made primarily from copper. The following year, 1982, marked a major shift when the mint transitioned to zinc-coated coins due to rising copper costs. This means that 1981 coins represent the last era of the original copper composition, about 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, giving them extra appeal to collectors. But even beyond their material composition, what makes some 1981 coins special are the rare minting errors that occurred during production. Let's start with one of the most sought-after varieties, the double die obverse. In this error type, the coin die that stamps the design onto the blank planchet is accidentally engraved with 2 slightly offset impressions. As a result, when the coin is struck, the lettering, date, and sometimes even Lincoln's profile appear doubled. On some 1981 Liberty pennies, this doubling can be seen on the words "Liberty," "Indiana God We Trust," or even the date itself. These doubling errors create a ghost-like or shadowed appearance and are instantly recognizable under magnification. The more visible and pronounced the doubling, the higher the coin's value, and the rarest examples have sold for astronomical prices. Another incredible type of error found in 1981 pennies is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank coin planchet is not properly centered between the dies when struck. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted to one side, creating a crescent-shaped blank area. Depending on how off-center the strike is, the value can vary, but coins that are 40% or more off-center while still showing a clear date and mint mark are extremely valuable. Such coins are considered one-of-a-kind treasures because no 2 off-center strikes are exactly alike. Equally interesting are the broad strike errors, where the collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking malfunctions or is missing entirely. This allows the metal to spread outward, giving the coin a wider, flatter appearance with smooth edges instead of the usual raised rim. A 1981 penny with this kind of error not only looks distinct but also captures a fascinating moment of minting imperfection, where the machinery momentarily lost its precision, creating a unique and collectible rarity. There are also transitional errors that connect 1981 to 1982, when the metal composition was changing. A few extremely rare 1981 pennies have been found struck on experimental zinc planchets, the kind intended for the following year's production. Because the composition change had not yet been officially implemented in 1981, these coins are technically mistakes but incredibly valuable ones. A copper-coated zinc penny from 1981 with a clear D or S mint mark can be worth tens of thousands, and in pristine condition, even more. If authenticated, such a transitional error could be the kind of coin worth millions. Then there are the missing letters and die break errors. Over time, the dies used to strike coins wear out, crack, or chip, leaving behind raised lines, blobs, or missing details on the finished coin. Some 1981 Liberty pennies show filled letters, die cracks running through Lincoln's face or coat, or small raised metal lines on the surface known as die breaks. These kinds of coins are adored by collectors because they capture unique fingerprints of the minting process, each one slightly different, and each one impossible to replicate. A particularly intriguing subset of 1981 pennies involves repunched mint marks, known as RPMs. During that era, the mint marks like D for Denver or S for San Francisco were still added manually to the coin dies. Occasionally, the worker would punch the mint mark slightly off and then correct it with a second strike, leaving a visible doubling effect. A 1981 D penny with a clear repunched mint mark is a numismatic gem, as it reveals a moment of human imperfection in an otherwise mechanical process. The proof coins from San Francisco, marked with an S, also hold immense appeal. These were specially struck for collectors, using polished dies and planchets to produce mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. However, even among these proof coins, some errors exist, such as no S varieties, where the mint mark was accidentally omitted. A no S 1981 Lincoln proof cent is one of the rarest modern U.S. coins, often fetching tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, depending on its condition and strike quality. Another fascinating anomaly is the wrong planchet error, which occurs when a coin is accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different denomination. There have been reports of 1981 Lincoln cents struck on dime planchets, meaning they're smaller, thinner, and made of a different metal. Others might be struck on planchets meant for foreign coins that were being produced at the same mint facility. These errors are incredibly rare, and when authenticated by professional grading services, they can be worth staggering amounts. Now, let's talk about what gives these coins their multimillion-dollar value in today's market. The world of coin collecting is driven by rarity, condition, and demand. When a coin is not only rare but also tied to an important historical transition like the shift from copper to zinc, it becomes even more desirable. The few known examples of 1981 pennies that combine multiple errors, such as doubling, off-center strikes, or wrong planchet strikes, are virtually priceless because no other coins like them exist. Collectors and investors from all over the world actively seek out such coins, and auctions have seen incredible bidding wars for high-grade or rare-era 1981 Liberty pennies. Coins graded mint state 68 or higher, especially those with visible errors, have been known to attract attention from elite collectors and museums. And as time passes, these coins only become more valuable because many of them are lost, damaged, or remain undiscovered in circulation. The fascination with the 1981 penny also stems from its place in history. It represents the end of an era, the final breath of the true copper cent before America's coins changed forever. My very respectable coin collectors, let's go to another exciting and fascinating episode where we dive deep into the hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket, waiting to change your life forever. Our today's second story is about one of the most surprising and extraordinary coins ever to come out of the United States Mint, the 1981 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin, a tiny piece of copper that has managed to capture the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world. Believe it or not, this single 1-cent coin, which was once just ordinary pocket change, is now known to be worth up to $72 million in some rare cases because of its unique minting errors, striking mistakes, and mysterious imperfections that make it unlike any other. So sit back, relax, and get ready to explore the incredible story behind the 1981 Lincoln penny, a coin that proves that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value when history, rarity, and chance collide. The Lincoln Cent series has been one of the longest running and most beloved in American history. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it replaced the Indian head cent and quickly became a symbol of national pride. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse side of the coin features the dignified portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, with the inscriptions "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of issue. On the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, you'll find the iconic Lincoln Memorial, flanked by the inscriptions "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and 1 cent. By 1981, the coin had already been in production for over 70 years, and yet, that year would mark one of the final chapters for the classic copper cent and an unexpected beginning for some of the rarest minting errors in history. The year 1981 was an important one for the United States Mint. It was the last full year before the transition from the traditional copper alloy to the copper-plated zinc composition that began in 1982. For over a century, pennies had been struck primarily from copper, but by the late 1970s, the rising cost of copper made it too expensive for the mint to continue producing coins of that metal. That meant that 1981 Lincoln cents were among the last of the true copper pennies, made up of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. However, that same year, due to the aging equipment, the massive production runs, and the human factor in die preparation and maintenance, several errors occurred at the Denver Mint, the kind that would turn a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. The D Mint mark on the 1981 D penny tells us that it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most active U.S. minting facilities. That year, hundreds of millions of pennies were struck there, but among those countless coins, a few rare and incredible varieties emerged, possessing errors so unique that they defy explanation. Collectors today still marvel at how such a small object, produced in such massive quantities, could contain mysteries that only a handful of people in the world have ever seen. Let's begin by looking at one of the most famous types of minting errors that make the 1981 D penny so valuable: the double die error. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives two slightly misaligned impressions during its creation. This means that when it strikes the coin, the lettering, numbers, and sometimes even Lincoln's portrait appear doubled. On some 1981 D pennies, this doubling can clearly be seen on the date, the word Liberty, or the motto "I in God We Trust." This doubling effect gives the coin a fascinating, almost ghost-like appearance, and because these errors are rare and visually striking, collectors are willing to pay incredible prices for them, especially when they are well preserved in mint condition. Another remarkable and highly valuable error seen in some 1981 D Liberty cents is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank metal planchet is not correctly positioned between the dies during the striking process. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing, shifted to one side, or stretched in strange ways. Some 1981 D pennies have been found struck up to 50% off-center, yet still showing the full date and mint mark, and those examples are among the most prized of all. No two off-center strikes are identical, which makes each of them a one-of-a-kind collectible. Equally fascinating are broad strike errors, which occur when the coin is struck without the collar that usually holds the planchet in place. This causes the metal to spread out, creating a wider, flatter coin with smooth edges. A 1981 D Lincoln cent with a broad strike error looks noticeably different from a regular penny and stands out immediately to collectors. These broad-struck coins are rare, and their value skyrockets when they are paired with other errors like die cracks or doubling. The Denver Mint was known for producing a few repunched mint mark varieties during that era as well. These are known as RPM's repunched mint marks, and they occur when the D mint mark is punched more than once into the die, slightly off each time. Because mint marks in that era were still added manually, it was easy for slight misalignments to happen. On a genuine 1981 D RPM penny, you might see what looks like a shadow or second D just below or beside the main one. These coins are highly collectible and can fetch thousands, even tens of thousands, of dollars depending on the clarity and preservation of the repunching. But the story doesn't stop there. Some 1981 D pennies have been found struck on the wrong planchet, a mistake that occurs when a blank metal disc intended for another denomination or even another country accidentally ends up in the penny production line. Imagine a Lincoln penny struck on a dime planchet. It would be smaller, thinner, and made of a different metal composition entirely. Such a coin would weigh less than a normal penny and have an unusual silvery color. A few authenticated examples of these off-metal errors have sold for astonishing sums, sometimes exceeding hundreds of thousands of dollars, because they are so rare and visually distinct. Another major factor that contributes to the extraordinary value of certain 1981 D pennies is the transitional nature of their production period. As the mint prepared to switch from copper to zinc planchets for the 1982 coinage, it's believed that some experimental planchets, or mixed metal blanks, may have accidentally been used in 1981. That means there could be 1981 D pennies out there struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, coins that were never supposed to exist. Because these transitional errors are so hard to detect without laboratory analysis and professional weighing, only a few are known, but when confirmed, they're considered some of the most valuable modern coins in existence. Now let's look at another category of fascinating minting mistakes: die breaks and die cracks. Over time, the immense pressure used to strike millions of coins wears out the dies, causing them to develop cracks. When these cracked dies strike new coins, the cracks leave raised lines or blobs of metal on the finished coins. These die cracks can appear anywhere on Lincoln's face, through the fields, or along the rim, and are often called cuds when they appear near the edge of the coin. Each one is unique, making these coins like fingerprints of the minting process itself. Some 1981 D Lincoln cents also show striking doubling on the reverse side, especially in the details of the Lincoln Memorial and the inscriptions 1 cent or United States of America. When this doubling appears alongside obverse doubling or mint mark repunching, the value multiplies dramatically. Imagine a coin that shows multiple rare error types at once. Such a piece would be 1 in a billion and could command prices in the tens of millions if authenticated and graded in high condition. Let's also consider the condition of these coins. Coin collectors and investors place enormous importance on the state of preservation. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, known as the Sheldon scale, with mint state 70 ms 70 being absolutely perfect, flawless under magnification. A 1981 D Lincoln cent with a rare error and a grade above ms 67 could easily fetch astronomical sums, especially if it has full luster, sharp details, and no visible wear. Coins that combine exceptional condition with dramatic mint errors are the kind of specimens that make headlines in major numismatic auctions. Beyond the technical minting errors, there is also the historical and emotional appeal of the 1981 D penny. My dears, now we're diving into one of the most surprising and extraordinary discoveries ever connected to a modern U.S. coin, the 1997 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that might look like a simple penny at first glance but holds a mystery and value beyond imagination. Believe it or not, some of these 1997 D. Lincoln pennies, struck in Denver, have been valued at up to $64 million because of a combination of extraordinary minting errors, rare variations, and the fascinating history behind their production. This story proves that even a tiny 1-cent coin, when touched by time, imperfection, and luck, can become a piece of history worth more than gold. So stay tuned, because what you're about to hear might make you look at your pocket change completely differently from now on. The Lincoln cent has always been one of the most iconic coins in American history, serving as both a symbol of national pride and an everyday piece of commerce since its introduction in 1909. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse features the dignified portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a man whose legacy stands for honesty, perseverance, and leadership. Over the years, this coin has evolved from the wheat ears design on the reverse to the Lincoln Memorial that dominated its appearance from 1959 to 2008. Each change reflected a new era, yet the Lincoln cent has always remained a familiar constant in American pockets. By 1997, the Lincoln Memorial reverse was still in use, and billions of these coins were being struck. But hidden among those billions, a few 1997 D pennies emerged with rare and unintentional mistakes that would make them some of the most sought-after coins in modern numismatic history. The Denver Mint, marked by the D mint mark beneath the date, is known for its massive production output. In 1997, over 4.6 billion Lincoln cents were produced there, most of them perfectly ordinary. But among those countless coins, rare errors occurred due to mechanical issues, human mistakes, or variations in the die preparation process. It's these errors that turn an everyday coin into something extraordinary. Each of these 1997 D-era pennies tells a story of the minting process, a story where precision met imperfection, and where a few coins escaped the factory unlike any others before or after. To understand why a 1997 D penny could possibly be worth $64 million, we have to understand what makes an error coin valuable. Value in the world of coin collecting comes from rarity, condition, and the degree of the error. When a coin features an error that is dramatic, visible, and extremely rare, and when it's preserved in pristine condition, collectors go into a frenzy to own it. The rarer the mistake, the higher the value. Combine that with the coin's condition, historical context, and collector demand, and suddenly a 1-cent coin can turn into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. One of the most fascinating errors found in 1997 D Lincoln cents is the double die obverse, or DDO. This error happens when the die that strikes the coin receives two slightly misaligned impressions during its creation, resulting in visible doubling of letters, numbers, or parts of the design. On some of the rarest 1997 D pennies, you can see this doubling clearly on the date 1997, on the word Liberty, or even on the motto "I in God We Trust." Under magnification, this doubling creates a ghost-like effect, almost as if two images are slightly overlapping. This kind of error immediately catches the eye of a numismatist because it proves that the die itself was flawed, meaning every coin struck with that die carries the same unique mistake. But only a handful of those coins were ever discovered, and when one turns up in gem mint state condition, its value can soar into the millions. Another extraordinary error that gives certain 1997 D pennies their massive value is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the flat disc of metal that becomes the coin, isn't properly centered between the dies during striking. The result is a coin where the design is partially missing or dramatically shifted to one side. In mild cases, the design might be just slightly off, but in extreme cases, a large portion of the design is missing, leaving an oddly shaped but clearly identifiable Lincoln cent. When an off-center strike still shows the full date and mintmark, collectors prize it even more. A 1997 D penny with a perfectly preserved off-center strike, combined with mint luster and minimal handling, can command staggering sums at auction. Then there are broad strike errors coins that were struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal in shape during the striking process. When that collar is missing or malfunctioning, the coin metal spreads out, creating a wider and flatter appearance with smooth, rounded edges instead of the usual rim. These broad-struck coins are easy to spot, but when they are from a specific year like 1997 and carry the Denver D mint mark, their rarity multiplies. Imagine a 1997 D penny that's not only broad-struck but also has doubling or a mintmark error. That kind of combination would be nearly 1 in a billion and could easily justify its immense value. Another fascinating class of minting errors involves repunched mintmarks, or RPMs. In earlier decades, mintmarks were added manually, but even in the 1990s, minor variations and repunching could occur during die creation or polishing. Some 1997 D Lincoln cents have been found with traces of a second D mintmark slightly overlapping or shadowing the first, the result of a die being repunched or misaligned during preparation. When these RPM errors are strong, crisp, and accompanied by a high mint state grade, they become highly collectible. A clear and dramatic repunched D on a coin that's over 2 decades old and nearly flawless in preservation can fetch astonishing prices. One of the most exciting possibilities for the 1997 D penny's extreme value lies in transitional, or off-metal errors. These errors happen when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination or metal composition. For instance, if a blank intended for a dime or a foreign coin got mixed into the penny line, the result would be a Lincoln cent that's smaller, lighter, and has a silvery color instead of the typical copper tone. These coins can only be confirmed through precise weighing and metallurgical analysis, but verified examples of off-metal strikes are among the most valuable coins in the world. A 1997 D penny struck on the wrong planchet, especially if it's a foreign or experimental blank, could easily explain its multimillion-dollar worth. Die cracks and cuds are also an important category of errors that can appear on 1997 D Lincoln cents. These occur when the die used to strike the coin develops small fractures after extensive use. When a cracked die strikes a coin, the crack leaves a raised line of metal on the surface, creating a unique pattern. If the break extends to the rim, it can produce a cut, a raised blob or lump of metal that interrupts the design. Some 1997 D pennies have been reported with dramatic die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait or through the words Liberty and I in God We Trust. These features make each coin a one-of-a-kind artifact. Because each die break is unique, collectors see these as natural works of art created by mechanical stress and time, and in pristine condition, they can sell for immense amounts. Another rare and extremely desirable variety related to 1997 D pennies involves double strikes. A double strike occurs when a coin is struck twice, either because it wasn't properly ejected after the first strike or because of a malfunction in the press. In some cases, the second strike lands perfectly on top of the first, creating subtle doubling effects, while in other cases, the coin is shifted, resulting in 2 overlapping images. These dramatic errors are instantly recognizable, and their visual impact makes them irresistible to collectors. A 1997 D double-struck penny with clear dual impressions and full mint luster could easily become a record-breaking collectible. Beyond the specific minting errors, the 1997 D penny also represents an important era in modern U.S. coinage. Now, great viewers, we go to another last amazing and exciting deep dive into the world of rare and valuable U.S. coins, a world where small pieces of metal can turn into fortunes, where a simple coin that looks ordinary to most people might secretly hold a story worth millions. We are going to talk about one of the most astonishing discoveries ever to come out of American change, the 2004 Lincoln 1-cent coin, the Liberty cent that shocked collectors and experts around the world with its unbelievable value. Yes, you heard that right, a 2004 Lincoln penny, worth not just a few dollars, not even a few thousand, but an unbelievable $58.8 million. This story is about how something that most of us would overlook every day could end up being one of the most precious and valuable coins ever to exist, all because of a few unique mistakes, mint errors, and unexpected circumstances that turned this ordinary-looking penny into a legend. The Lincoln cent is one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history. It carries the image of one of the most respected presidents, Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of honesty, unity, and endurance. First minted in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the coin has gone through many changes over the years, but it has always remained a favorite among collectors and everyday citizens alike. By 2004, the Lincoln Memorial reverse design had been in use for 45 years, showing the proud monument in Washington, D.C. where Lincoln's legacy is honored. Billions of pennies were struck that year, circulating widely across the nation. But hidden within those billions, a few extraordinary coins emerged, coins that, because of minting errors, mechanical faults, and sheer luck, became some of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents ever created. To understand how a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could end up being worth over $58 million, we first need to understand what makes a coin valuable in the first place. In numismatics, the study of coins, 3 things define value: rarity, condition, and demand. When a coin is rare, when only a few exist, either because of limited mintage or errors, collectors go crazy for it. When it's in perfect or near perfect condition, its value skyrockets even more. And when there's a strong demand among collectors, that value can multiply dramatically. The 2004 Lincoln penny is a perfect storm of all these factors, a coin that's incredibly rare because of its unique minting mistakes, preserved in stunning condition, and highly sought after by collectors who know its true story. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d under the date, was one of 2 locations striking Lincoln cents in 2004, the other being Philadelphia. The Denver Mint produced billions of coins that year, but machines aren't perfect, and neither are humans. Every so often, something goes wrong in the minting process. A die is misaligned, a planchet, the blank coin before striking, is the wrong metal, or a mint mark is punched incorrectly. When that happens, the result is a one-of-a-kind coin, and that's exactly what happened with the 2004 Lincoln cent. One of the most talked about varieties from this year is the 2004 D penny with dramatic doubling on the obverse, known as a double die error. A double die occurs when the die itself, the piece of metal that stamps the coin design, receives multiple impressions that don't line up perfectly. When this flawed die strikes coins, each coin bears that same doubled image. On the rare 2004 D double die pennies, you can often see doubling in the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and even in the numbers of the date 2004. The effect is mesmerizing, as if there's a ghostly shadow on the coin, making it look almost three-dimensional. These errors are extremely rare, and the few examples that exist have fetched enormous sums at auctions because collectors know they represent genuine minting anomalies that are unlikely ever to occur again. Another important error that gives certain 2004 pennies incredible value is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet is not perfectly centered between the dies when it's struck, resulting in a design that's partially missing or shifted to one side. In some extreme cases, up to half the design can be missing, leaving a crescent of blank space on the coin's edge. When a 2004 Lincoln penny shows an off-center strike but still retains a clear date and mint mark, it becomes an absolute treasure. Collectors love these because they clearly show the imperfection in the striking process while still keeping the coin identifiable. Some off-center 2004 pennies have sold for thousands, but those in mint condition, with strong luster and sharp details, can reach astronomical figures, especially if the error is paired with another anomaly like doubling or planchet issues. Speaking of planchets, one of the most remarkable and valuable kinds of mint errors is when a coin is struck on the wrong metal. In 2004, Lincoln cents were made from copper-plated zinc, a core of zinc with a thin outer layer of copper, giving it that familiar reddish color. However, sometimes planchets intended for other denominations like dimes, nickels, or even foreign coins accidentally end up in the penny presses. When this happens, the resulting coin has the design of a Lincoln cent but is the wrong size, weight, or color. These are called off-metal errors, and they are among the rarest of all mint mistakes. Imagine finding a 2004 penny struck on a dime planchet. It would appear smaller, lighter, and silvery instead of coppery. That kind of mistake is not supposed to happen, and when it does, the value can easily jump from a cent to millions, depending on the coin's preservation and authenticity. Another category of errors that can make a 2004 penny extremely valuable involves die cracks and die breaks. These occur when the metal die used to strike the coin becomes damaged over time. As cracks develop in the die, each coin it strikes carries a raised line or bump of metal where the crack was. When the crack is large enough to connect to the rim, it can create what collectors call a cut, a blob of raised metal that interrupts the design. Each cut or die crack is unique, making every coin with this kind of error one of a kind. Some 2004 pennies have been discovered with dramatic die breaks across Lincoln's portrait, or running through the word Liberty, creating an unmistakable appearance that collectors crave. Because of their uniqueness and their historical value as minting anomalies, such coins can command staggering prices. Another fascinating and often overlooked error type is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. While modern minting methods have largely automated the addition of mint marks, slight variations can still occur. On a 2004 penny, this might appear as a shadow or doubling effect on the D mint mark, caused when the die was struck twice during preparation but not perfectly aligned the second time. A strong, clear RPM can make a 2004 penny extremely desirable to collectors, especially when combined with a high mint state grade. There are also coins struck through foreign objects called struck-through errors. These occur when debris like grease, fibers, or even fragments of other coins get between the die and the planchet during striking. The resulting impression can cause missing details or strange textures on the coin's surface. A 2004 Lincoln penny with a struck-through error might have part of Lincoln's face missing or appear smoothed out, making it immediately noticeable. Because these errors are so unpredictable, each one is unique, and collectors pay high premiums for well-defined examples. Another reason the 2004 Lincoln penny has gained so much attention is the period in which it was minted. By the early 2000s, the U.S. Mint had been using zinc-based planchets for over 2 decades, and issues related to plating and corrosion were becoming more noticeable. Occasionally, pennies were struck with plating flaws, areas where the copper coating was too thin or missing entirely, exposing the silvery zinc underneath. These partial plating errors often result in a two-tone appearance that's visually striking. A 2004 penny with exposed zinc spots or missing copper on one side, in mint condition, can fetch thousands. Combine that with another error like doubling or an off-center strike, and the coin's value can easily skyrocket.